Hi, and welcome to another episode of Wellness with Wandia. Today I've got a very interesting story for you. It's a story about strength, it's a story about endurance, it's a story about resilience. This story is about my first time up a big mountain. My first big mountain was Mount Kenya. So my first experience up Mount Kenya, as usual, I've done my research. I have had a conversation with my brother who used to lead expeditions. I have borrowed what I could borrow from him. For context, my brother at that time was a good maybe 30, 40 kilos lighter than me, and I was a good maybe 20, 30 kilos than I am right now. So I went up Mount Kenya my very first time at about 100 kilos. So that's the first thing. Keeping in mind that I was physically active. So I imagined that I had the physical strength to go up. One of the reasons why I also started Mountain Slayers was looking for a safe space to process what was going on within the family. My dad's illness with Alzheimer's. Why is this relevant? I'm laying the foundation for you to understand where I was as a person emotionally and physically when I was embarking on this particular trip. Another thing that I want to also add here is that you don't know the right gear until you know the right gear. And back then, there were not very many people who were selling outdoor hiking gear. So, my goodness, some of the things that I wore on that particular trip, I look back and I see that I really have come from far. So, allow me to break this story down into these pieces. On the eve, or maybe like 2 days before I needed to leave for this particular expedition, my father's condition hit a road bump to the point where we needed to rush him to hospital. We rushed him to hospital and he had to undergo surgery. It was on this backdrop that I had to make up my mind on whether I was going to go to Mount Kenya or not. My family is very supportive and they challenged me gently and reminded me that my dad was always about doing what you can do, being aware of what is within your control and living your life. And that's what I did. I was told there's nothing you can do here. So you go to the mountain. Go to the mountain. When you come back, whatever you find is what it's going to be. So that is one of the things that I was moving off when I was going to the mountain. Another one in terms of gear. I don't know if you people have seen a scuba diving gear. Scuba diving gear is like swimming costume gear. That is what I got in terms of my base layer. I look back and I'm like, I don't even know what I was thinking, but that was the closest thing that I knew. So I was there with a scuba suit as my base layer. Add to that my 100 kilos, and I had a team of 7. In this team, I had 4 gentlemen. One of them had army experience, a foreign national who used to serve in his army, so he was very strong. One of the gentlemen was also a cyclist, so he was very fit. And the other 2, I guess testosterone was on their side, so they were very strong. It was me and another lady. So I could also already tell from the very beginning that I was likely to be the one who was going to suffer most on this particular trip. And for sure I was the one to suffer. Day 1 was okay. Started off nicely, made peace with my family, and I put my phone on flight mode because I knew that in the event anything happened, what really could I do apart from distressing myself and distressing the rest of the team? So my phone was on flight mode and I just checked in fully to what lay ahead. The weather was good, the team spirit was fantastic, and there we were. So day 1, Narumoro Gate, and walked all the way to Makinda's, and that is where Med Station, where we spent our first night. The first night was uneventful, banter, happy about this expedition that we are on. And the next day, had breakfast and started off. The head guide had already seen that I was the weakest link on this trip. And what normally happens is that we try to put the person who's struggling the most at the front so that they can set the pace and they don't get left too far behind. So that was me. In the morning, I was told, run here to the front. And I was like, okay, it's me. The distance between the med station to the moorland or the boggy area, the incline is so steep that even now when I take people on that route for day trips, they struggle on that. For me, I felt like my heart was coming out of my chest. I felt like I was going to die. I struggled. I struggled to make it up. And I could see the people behind me being very patient. Nobody was rushing me. People were just happy to just sit behind, to walk behind and allow me the space that I needed. Eventually, when I made it to the marshland, I asked the guide to allow the people to just move. And he said, fine. So now I was left behind. So it was me. And every so often they would wait for me, stop. I catch up with them and they keep moving. Basically, I'm letting you know that I struggled. I struggled. It took everything in me to get to Mackinder's, but I got there. It was a whole day's affair, but I finally got to Mackinder's. Mackinder's being our base camp before our summit attempt. So got there, freshened up, got into my ski outfit as my base layer, changed into my things for sleeping, and I slept. Before I slept, the head guide came and gave us instructions in terms of how to prepare. And he said, you know what, it's going to be very cold, so put on everything. And that's what I understood. When he said put on everything, I understood put on everything. So I slept. In the morning I woke up and I put on everything. I put on everything. My ski suit, I put on my hiking pants, I put on my rain pants, I put on everything. So by the time I was starting, my body was already warm, which now I know. If you're starting off hiking and your body is warm, you're already in trouble. You are in trouble. So again, I was put to the front, but my pace was again so slow that at some point I had to give the people way. I had not even made it 100 meters and I was struggling and I was sweating and I was huffing and puffing. The team moved in front. I was left behind with the lady. I guess she was just staying with me because she wanted to team spirit, but the rest of the guys, they went. The exhaustion that I was experiencing, the discomfort that I was experiencing, the mental anguish that I was experiencing, thinking about whether I'm going to find my father, imagining that maybe this was not the wisest decision. My body is overheating and I ground to a complete halt. Do you know what that means, ground to a complete halt? I told the guide, I am not moving. I am done. Take me back. And we had a showdown. He said, I'm not taking you back. You're okay. We're going to continue. And I said, no. The other hikers now are very quiet. They're just watching to see how is this thing going to go down. I am shouting at the top of my lungs and my guide is shouting back at me and telling me we're going to go. When I realized I had no option, I had to continue moving. Step by painful step. Step by painful step. The rest of the team made it up to Austrian Hut and decided to wait there for me before proceeding to the summit. It took, I think, hours to get me to the Austrian Hut. These guys had, taken fantastic photos. The sun had come out. I mean, they were now there relaxing and like, okay, let's just at least wait for one day to get here because she's one of the expedition leaders and we want her to be at least get to this point. I got to Austrian Hut, again, extremely exhausted, found myself a hot cup of tea. Then the guy told me, all right, last push. You can see, if you look up there, you can see where the summit is, and that's where we're going. So again, I'm put to the front. You know, when you think that you have got nothing left in you, that is where I was. I was empty. I don't even know how I made it. I guess one of the things is that the team was gracious enough to move and wait for me. And the guide didn't give me any option. He's like, you're going to go. You're going to go. So I had to go. I eventually made it to the summit. And again, remember I told you I'm a waterworks person. I cried. I cried because I was drained. I cried because how did I get myself into this trip? I cried because my father. I cried because this thing is very hard. This thing is very hard, and this is the end of hiking for me. This thing is not for me. I was done. We took our group photos, and now the team was like, okay, one day we have gotten to the summit. Now from here, we meet on the other side. And I could not expect anything else from them because we had summited, and they knew for sure it was going to take me forever to get off. So we came up Narumoro and we're going down through Sirimon. So now we're going to get to Shiptons for breakfast. Huffing and puffing, I got to Shiptons, and the rest of the crew was there. They just wanted to make sure that I had reached. So as I got there, I put down my bag and started removing, it was very hot. And they're looking at me, they're sitting and looking at me and like, how many layers did you actually have? I had on all my clothes. After all, that's what the guy had said. The guy said, wear all your clothes. So I wore all my clothes. And that was one of the reasons I was struggling. I had overheated and I just could not breathe. So that was one of the first mistakes. But having made it to the summit, my spirit was lighter. My spirit was lighter because I had actually managed to do what I had set out to do. And I was at peace with whatever eventuality I would have found when I got off the mountain and back to Nairobi. So I was at peace. I was lighter and I was encouraged by what I had done. However, I was not doing this thing again. I was still done with mountaineering. So just like before, the rest of the team left, and now they went all the way down to Old Moses, and I was left on my own with my guide. My guide realized there was a pain. He realized that I was a pain. What does that mean? So you'd move, and then he waits for me. When I come close to him, he takes off because he knows I'm going to come and start making noise again. So he'd just allow me to come close to him, then he takes off. So I had to just keep chasing him and chasing him and chasing him. And it took me the whole day and into the night to get to Old Moses. I was getting to Old Moses at about maybe 8 p.m. The next day, got off the mountain, and I remember at the gate, I told the guide, please, delete my number. Do not call me because I am not going to call you. And his famous word was, Wandia, mimi sitakupigia simu. Mimi nakungoja. In less than 1 year, utakuwa umerudi hapa. And I laughed. Ha, ha, ha. Never. This thing's done. My mountaineering story is finished. It's been a good run. Finished. Well, clearly that's not how the story ended. Otherwise, I would not be here right now. True to form, in less than a year, that mountain called me back. But I found that my dad was okay. I found that my energy, spirit had been re-energized by being on this particular trip. And again, it just reconfirmed that this thing, there's something to it. And I'm going to continue because I like that it's allowing me to unpack what it is that I'm carrying. It's allowing me to be present in what I need to be present in. And it's also just allowing me to explore different angles and sides of Wandia. The mountain has really peeled back my layers. It has given me an appreciation for the resilience of the human spirit. With the right support, we are able to do almost anything you set your mind to. Barring any emergencies, the mountain is a space that allows you to develop. It has humbled me. It has made me more patient with people. And I'm asked, how do you do this thing? How are you able to handle all these people? It's because I know when I'm out in nature, nature is so unforgiving and is so powerful that the fact that I'm able to go and come back more than once, and I've done this several times, it just makes me appreciate this gift that I've been given. And it's because of this that the journey, Wellness with Wandia, is on. This is what it's all about. I want to share this gift that has been given to me. I want to walk this journey with you. The physical journey, the emotional journey, the spiritual journey to becoming the best version of yourself. Everyone listening to this, I challenge you to take on your own mountain. Whatever it is that seems daunting and almost insurmountable in your life, I challenge you to take it on. Trust me, you will be rewarded for this if you do. Push your limits, embrace the struggle, and trust that the journey will transform you. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. Until next time, keep climbing, keep growing, and stay well.